I'm just here to talk about my company called Couture, which was we first started selling at retail in 2005. I set up the business in 2004, and I wanted to just talk about the successes and the challenges actually along the way, and having a brand based in Hong Kong and out of Hong Kong, which at the time in 2004 was really quite an unusual thing. There were very few other than perhaps Shanghai Tang and GOD that were actually brands that were based here. And that presented a lot of actually opportunity and some challenges. But the world in 2004 is very different than the world now. And along the way, I would have to say that having a business in Hong Kong and having a brand out of Hong Kong has actually, there have been probably greater even opportunities since 2008, since the world of retail changed, which it really did. And since the minimum wage changed in China, all of our manufacturing is out of China. In 2000, the minimum wage was 65 cents an hour. Now it's $14. So it's really changed the whole face of manufacturing. And also, the third part I was going to talk about sort of about sourcing, about retail, the environment, and also about marketing. Because what I do when you deal with a brand, however small or large, it's marketing is a really big part of it. You know, you're buying into an image as much as you are a product. And so having something that was based here in the beginning was very different than it is now. There's a lot more interest in Hong Kong now. And there's a lot more encouragement, interest in Hong Kong from overseas as an interesting cultural region. And also, there's more interest within Hong Kong, more support. So I'll just talk about that a little bit too. Anyway, just about Couture. You know all of this because we just sort of said it, but it was founded, thank you so much. It was founded in 2004. I basically started the brand after I'd moved here. I'd been here for a year and a half, and I'd spent the first 2 years actually with Toy Birch, helping her set up her brand, and really it was just to set up the sourcing office and some of the design teams. But after that was done, I moved on to do sort of my own thing. I came here originally with 2 children. I now have 4. And my husband, who was actually moved here he was in finance. I had worked my whole career and really wanted to do something, and I saw a tremendous opportunity really to be very close to a manufacturing source. So I didn't actually launch a collection until I found the right manufacturers. And I'll just go into that. So the first one, which Raymond touched on, thank you so much, was the brocade. It all started with brocades, finding this trove of brocade fabric that had been basically abandoned in a warehouse from 1960s and 70s. And Hong Kong at one point used to be the luxury silk center. And then when the industry really moved to Lake Como district, the owner destroyed all of his machines, refusing to reveal the secrets of how he made his brocades. And in fact, I tried to replicate them, and I couldn't, except for one. And the one that I could now lines all of the bags as like an homage. But I started first just making these brocade bags and donating all the proceeds to Operation Smile. With the proceeds just from 2 seasons, we funded an international medical mission in China. And I joined the board, so I'm very involved with that. But so this was just the initial way to kind of test out the market in the US. I've had my entire career in New York and in the US, so I really was gearing towards selling in the US. And so my focus initially was just to manufacture and to have a point of difference. And the point of difference would be, first of all, in clutches. I started making clutches with the brocade because a lot of the brocade was damaged, so I could only use small bits at a time, so that's kind of what led to it. But once I started selling it, retailers said, well, what else do you have? And I in the meantime, was looking for boutique manufacturers who could specialize in special things. Not the kind when I worked at Gap, which were these huge factories, but a lot of it was word of mouth. It took a couple of years to kind of develop relationships and meet people. And those relationships would have gotten me through some really hard times in retail. And as I said, when a lot of factories were closing, we partnered and kind of propped each other up. So those relationships, I think, wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had those proximities. Anyway, so that was the brocade story. So the product sourcing and strategy was in 2004, pre-2008, luxury was at its peak. It was how high can high go. There was very little in a designer realm that was sold for under $1,000. So it was either really mass or really high end. And I thought, well, there must be an opportunity to do something in between and make it more accessible to people who on a one budget, but also kind of like acceptable enough to a group that could kind of afford anything that was buying luxury so that they could buy it. So we were aiming to go under $1,000, and to do that, I had to use all indigenous materials. I couldn't import anything. I could not import Italian leathers. So from that, I decided to use materials that maybe were overlooked or that just hadn't been really explored by my, comrades. So I delved into snakeskin, shell, brocades, working in chapeau, even with mills to custom make things. So that was some of the, backwards. Including this one. This is our new line. We used cloisonné. Cloisonné is an ancient technique that was used in metal work. I found this really tiny boutique workshop in Hong Kong. They made cloisonné panels for me, which then I would give to another factory to inset into the bags. So again, the point of difference is that nobody else is, to be honest, like crazy enough to use these techniques because I have to use 3 different factories to get everything done. And most of the way manufacturing retail is done right now is a little bit more plug and play, and we're not like that at all. So, but it's just one of the ways that living here and being able to explore like local artisans has been really an important part of my business and my growth. This was just actually a thematic group that we did last fall in perspex, again, made locally, and with brocade that we helped design. It's not just about having indigenous materials, straws and snakeskin, although we do use those a lot. This was a little bag that we did called a snow globe. We just got our patent last week. And for bags containing lumens. So, if you see any copies, I don't know who would actually copy that, but we have a patent. But the idea was that we made it in a snow globe factory. So the bags, you can shake them, and it kind of has a little bit of a vintage feel. It's very whimsical. But again, we needed to make them in 3 different manufacturers in order to kind of get it right, because a snow globe factory couldn't do the lining, they couldn't do the hardware, so we took it from place to place. But this is just to show that a whimsical idea could have really only been visualized here. I wouldn't have been able to do it anywhere else. Okay, now I'm going into, by the way, the Mahjong collection we had 5 different hands because the grandmothers in my of the people in my office all had very strong opinions about which hand should be. So we sold 5 different hands. But anyway, one, I guess, more literal inspiration from the region is to have a chinoiserie or Chinese or Asian-inspired collection, which we did for the Met Ball. Vogue and the Costume Institute, which is part of the Metropolitan, they did Through the Looking Glass to complement their exhibition last year. So we did a few bags in conjunction with them that were then, carried on the red carpet. So this is just to show that which I have here, there you go, from the Met Ball. Few people carrying that bag. They're all carrying the birdcage bag, which was modeled after a vintage birdcage and a lantern. We did 2 different versions of it. But I guess one thing I wanted to show is that having a celebrity following is really important, and having support from Hollywood has been really important. And when I first was here and started selling in 2005, people I sold in Harvey Nichols and Lane Crawford, fantastic retailers, but they really insisted that I be an American brand, that I was from New York. And to be honest, it was hard for me to say that I was from Hong Kong. I'd only been here for a couple of years. But they even said, well, look, if you have an event in the store, just say you just got off the plane. Like, it's a much better story. And, we put pictures up of American starlets carrying the bags. Well, now it's a very different story. Now, first of all, I'm very proud to be part of a Hong Kong design group and a Hong Kong company. And I think, but it's also true that people, I think, within Hong Kong are looking, there's no need to look outside anymore. There is talent here, and talent is not leaving. Talent is staying, it's being fostered, and it's being nurtured. And I love to see that too. In the very beginning, it was hard to hire people because there were very few people. I mean, there were classic merchandising roles, people who would be used to negotiating things in large factories, but there were very few people I could hire who were designers or who were even in sales, who did international sales. I mean, it was more people who were raised to buy for the department stores here, but not to sell externally. So it's kind of changed. But I will say that no matter where you are, I think it's really important to build a brand through your marketing message. And for us, it's been, because we do smaller bags and clutches, it's been through a celebrity following. And now, I wanted to say that these are all in the last 3 months, that this is sort of some more, and a lot of these are actually from the Vogue China. Vogue China had their 10-year anniversary, and 2 billion readership, which is pretty amazing. So during their anniversary party, we joined the red carpet quite a bit, which was really nice, as well as some other black tie and red carpet events. But even in terms of, there was no pretending that we were, there were a lot of Chinese designers being worn on the red carpet, and it's not just the LVMH, Chanel brands anymore. There's a security and a confidence to explore and to support. So that was really, I was really honored to be included there, and that was probably one of the more exciting moments. One more thing about Vogue China, they have an office in Hong Kong. They're very active in Hong Kong, so I kind of consider them as much part of Hong Kong as mainland China, and it's a fluid line and in terms of how they cover things too. But that they are incredibly, as a magazine, incredibly respected, and they're actually a leader in Condé Nast. And when they were first brought on, it was and Angelica Chang, who is at the bottom right, who is the editor-in-chief, is incredibly powerful and respected, and just very proud to be included in that, but also to see the change over the last 10 years, where instead of a follower, it's a market leader now. It's been really important. Okay, this was just a little press exposure. Really important, again, for what I do. This is US press and European press exposure. This is product placement. And then this is, oopsie, just missed, got it. And then this is more Hong Kong and China press exposure. So it's really important to have product placement. That is one part of getting your name out there. It usually isn't the case that your bag is in a magazine and suddenly you sell out, but it is important that if people kind of repeatedly see an image, that they kind of start remembering who you are. So, but this is all really important in building a brand, but this is the real reason why I kind of put this in, which is that the renewed interest in Hong Kong. The US has had a bit of a slump in retail. Magazines have had a bit of a slump. I just got news this morning that some senior editors were just let go. The magazines are getting, they're tight in their budgets, and therefore they're not as creative. So I feel like America right now is actually looking toward Hong Kong, and here are just 2 recent profiles on, they profile a designer, like what's your favorite restaurant, things like that, which it's great exposure because it's a feature piece, and a feature piece is really important for profile. But one was out of Harper's Bazaar, and one was out of Travel and Leisure out of the States, and here are 2 of them. And whereas before, I would say there wasn't the interest, I was sort of asked, even, this is in the very beginning, not to say that things were from Hong Kong. Now everyone is so interested. Now Hong Kong is on every label. It's like, yes, we're very proud of it. And actually, it's a point of difference and a point of interest and a point of pride. And I've always been proud of it, by the way. But so here it is. And then there's actually a few things coming up as well. There's 2 pieces in the next couple months. One in More magazine about Hong Kong, where I, pick a restaurant, or give design tips. But again, it's just that people are, coming to us asking, because it's an interesting, exotic place. Okay, so my last little section, which I'll whiz by, is our points of distribution. So this is just sort of where we sell overseas and in Asia. And here's our display currently in Lane Crawford, and Harvey Nichols, some windows from last year. Again, just to show the support within. As retail, after 2008, our biggest clients were Neiman Marcus and Saks, and they were sold consequently, but they also, to protect their inventory is, everyone's headache, they started becoming more like landlords. They almost laid off all their buyers. There's no buying team anymore. Everything is done by leasing and concession, very small amount. So consequently, retail in the States, which is largest distribution is department stores, is a bit boring and uninspired, because you see the same things in the mall that you see in the department stores inside the mall. But I will have to say that, the creativity within a Lane Crawford is still really alive and well, and risk-taking and taking on smaller brands, and within Harvey Nichols too. And because of that, they are really seen now as industry leaders, always quoted in the trade magazines, Women's Wear Daily, and quite inspiring to the rest of the world. This is just our store in Sogo. We have a shop-in-shop in Shim Sha Tsui in Sogo. But the point of that was also to show you what the alternatives could be. Oh, no, not yet, wrong slide. I'll get to the alternatives afterwards. But so we have a store in Shim Sha Tsui. This was online visibility. This is all part of Net-a-Porter. On the left shows our offering on Net-a-Porter, and on the right shows some marketing materials that they have on their online magazine. And the reason for this slide was really just to talk about a really important online the really important online business, which has certainly, there's a lot that are stemming from Hong Kong. There's also, even within a Net-a-Porter, in the last couple of years, we used to ship to 2 warehouses, a European warehouse and a US warehouse, and now we ship to an APAC warehouse. And they've built an entire team in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is actually their biggest, their biggest wholesale, their biggest market. And anyway, just to show that this region is incredibly important now with online. One more, just a little point of interest is that Silas Chow, who Tommy, he brought Tommy Hilfiger and Michael Kors and brought them public, and is quite a brilliant business person, has also announced that he's launching a Hong Kong-based design brand. He's bought the brand Takun, and he's doing it as an Asia designer based in Hong Kong, strictly online, but selling internationally. So I kind of think, he's a good leader to follow, and so I think he's onto something, and maybe the rest of Hong Kong too. Just to finish up, this was Hong Kong retail. This is my last slide. This is basically what's happening now. And ways in which the government is really, not just the government, but the people are really standing behind design, art, and retail here. And there's the launch of PMQ, which really fosters talent. And there's some articles in the Women's Wear Daily. Art Basel is now part of Hong Kong, which is really part of a global art market. There are other places, West Kowloon Project, K11, Design Center recently launched, SCAD, which is a very prominent US design school, has launched also in Kowloon, and some other really places for younger designers who are starting, and they have a tremendous exposure. Anyway, I think I'm done. Yes, thank you so much.